Empty supermarket shelves, no garbage disposal, too few clinic staff. The Omicron wave is paralyzing more and more parts of Great Britain. But despite the chaos, Prime Minister Johnson is ruling out further corona measures. Well, he's, as we would say here in Germany, he's counted. Boris Johnson is steering Great Britain through the corona crisis without a clear course. Never before has the support for the British Prime Minister been as low as it is now. Most recently, he received a political slap in the face from his own party. You might have heard from me about that one. Meanwhile, the Omicron variant is causing chaos, the number of infections is increasing, and more Britons are sitting at home, sick or in quarantine. Personnel bottlenecks have an even greater impact on the entire infrastructure. So two crises come together, the erosion of Johnson's power and lax corona management. And they fuel each other. One thing is already clear, Great Britain celebrated its Freedom Day way too early. The Omicron wave hit Great Britain earlier than other European countries. While Germany was still able to study the effects of the new virus variant on the pandemic in their neighboring countries, Omicron has been predominant on the island already since mid-December. And above all, this has resulted in appalling numbers of infections. On Tuesday, more than 218,000 new infections were reported in Great Britain. However, this also includes some late reports from the past few days because there's also an inaccurate data situation on the island after the Christmas holidays because some regional health authorities did not report any new cases. The 7-day incidence, the number of infections per 100,000 inhabitants within a week, was 1,919.5 on Wednesday. The government is exacerbating the situation through unclear communication. On the one hand, Boris Johnson warns of the Omicron wave. On the other hand, he is sticking to his loose policy of measures and ruling out another lockdown. As with the drastic consequences of Brexit, the Prime Minister is talking about the situation nicely. He is becoming more and more of a mere storyteller. His current plan includes a mask requirement indoors, the recommendation to work from home, and 3G compulsory, that means vaccinated, recovered or tested, for clubs and major events. This has been true for several weeks, and the clear majority of British experts are urging the Prime Minister to tighten things up. But he remains stubborn. Johnson justifies himself by saying that it has now been proven that the Omicron variant causes milder courses of COVID-19, but still there are deaths by Omicron in the UK. There would not be so many infected people in intensive care units. 9 out of 10 patients in the intensive care units have not yet had a booster vaccination, he said. That is why the Premier is urgently promoting booster, with success, by the way. The UK also showed a fast pace of booster vaccinations. On the island, almost 60% are now considered boosted. In Germany, it is over 40% at the moment. And yet, it has a problem similar to that of Germany. Only 70% of the population have been vaccinated twice. There are too many unvaccinated people for herd immunity. The Omicron data from Great Britain actually gives hope because it shows clearly that booster vaccinations protect more than 90% against hospital admissions. The fact that a major catastrophe has been averted so far is mainly due to the fact that over 75% of older Britons have been boosted, as Health Minister Karl Lauterbach in Germany here recently noted. The British government is trying to save itself over this corona winter. The country must try to live with COVID-19, wrote Health Minister Sajid Javid in the Daily Mail. There will only be new restrictions as an absolute last resort. And despite things I read in the comments here, Germany is taking another path. And today there is another meeting because of strengthening the rules. But the British policy carries a risk because in the past it has been shown again and again internationally that stringent measures could be abolished more quickly if there was a quick reaction to an escalation of the pandemic situation, and they were not the absolute last resort as it will be today in Germany. The country seems to have already passed several critical points, and Omicron has rapidly exacerbated the structural problems in the pandemic. This is particularly evident in the clinics. Last weekend, Health Minister Sajid Javid said that Britain was still a long way from the numbers that were there around a year ago. This is also due to the massive vaccination campaign in the kingdom, he says. The country is now in a much stronger position from his point of view. The number of hospital admissions for COVID-19 has been increasing again for some time and is not as high as it has been since March. On Tuesday, several British clinics called the disaster situation due to blatant staff shortages. At least 6 hospital foundations, some of which include several clinics, have already decided to take this step in view of the violent corona wave, as the BBC reported. It means that those responsible are of the opinion that they can no longer guarantee necessary treatments. And according to the BBC, the head of the NHS Confederation, which brings together national health service organizations, his name is Matt Taylor, wrote, "We are currently in a state of crisis in many parts of the health system. In some hospitals, employees are already being asked to give up days off so that operations can continue. But how long can you do that? Too many illnesses, too few staff. The British government's fairy tale that the situation in hospitals is stable seems to have already been overtaken by reality. Johnson has already admitted that the pressure on the health system is expected to continue for several weeks. And in the health sector, more than 110,000 workers were absent from work on Friday, as the Sunday Times reported. That corresponds to almost 1 in 10 employees. Accordingly, around half of them were sick or had to be in quarantine. But of course, other industries have also been hit hard for a long time. Johnson last warned of a loss of more than 25% of the workforce in Great Britain, all the more astonishing that his government is not reacting to it. Because the failures have arrived in the everyday life of the population. As the Daily Mail reports, in some communities, garbage is sometimes no longer picked up, buses no longer run, and customers are standing in front of empty supermarket shelves. And the anger in the UK is growing accordingly, and the government wants to respond by reducing the quarantine period for vaccinated people from 7 to 5 days. According to experts, however, this will only have a minor effect. The reason for Johnson's political incapacity to act also lies in the current power architecture. After a good 2 years in office, the Prime Minister is under considerable pressure, also and above all in his own ranks. Johnson was officially counted at the latest when his Tories lost the parliamentary seat in their stronghold of North Shropshire for the first time in almost 200 years in a by-election in mid-December. "One more prank and I think it's over," said Tory veteran Roger Gale. And the broadcaster Sky News quoted a former ally of Johnson. "He has used up 8 of his 9 lives." Johnson's power in the ranks of the Conservatives had been steadily eroding since autumn, with consequences for corona politics. When Johnson wanted to tighten the rules just slightly, he had to rely on the opposition. Almost 100 Tories voted against him in the House of Commons. And the signal was clear: this far and no further. The fact that Brexit Minister David Frost recently resigned because of differences of the corona course is another blow to Johnson. It is also his own mistakes with which the Prime Minister put himself in this position. Most recently, the British were outraged after revelations about multiple Christmas parties on Downing Street and other government buildings, while the rest of the country was locked down in 2020. Well, Johnson's popularity ratings with the Conservative base are at a low point. It is not a question of whether Johnson will lose the office, but when, commented the well-connected BBC reporter Laura Kunsberg. The British media are already openly discussing possible successors. Johnson's advantage right now seems to be that no one wants to take power in this dire situation in Britain. But ultimately, the power struggle and the political paralysis are damaging the fight against the pandemic. Because one thing above all is essential for a successful struggle: political stability. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.